Mother-Daughter-Duopodcast.
Hello, another episode of the Mother-Daughter Duo podcast. Again, I am your host, Danielle Perkins. To my right is my mother and co-host,
Jean Perkins.
Thank you again for tuning in. Let's do a mommy moment. Mommy moments are any revelation in the week, any exciting things that happened within your week, anything that you were able to do for yourself as a mom. What is your mommy moment of the week, Jean?
My mommy moment, I would say, is always just staring at my grandson.
Oh my goodness. Get another something else.
I'm sorry, but I'm just still amazed that he's here and that, he's in my presence and I get to see him every day and enjoy him. And I like when we say our prayers at the end of the night, when you bring him in my room and we say our prayers, and he is grinning from ear to ear just listening to us, because the thing is we all hold hands, and so he is just like with this big old crazy grin on his face looking at us as we say our simple prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And while we're doing that, he's like and then when we end it and we say amen, he said, night-night.
That's him solidifying the prayer, because that's what he says every time. My mommy moment, I would say, is taking Pierre out. I try to, this is the very last week where it will be just Pierre. So I try to take him out. His father and I took him out to a few different excursions. We went to go see the Minions movie. We went to we went to go see the Minions movie and took him to the Play Center, took him to go have his favorite. He loves Jamba Juice smoothies. So just doing that for Pierre.
Jamba Juice smoothies? Sound like you said Jamba Juice movies.
Oh, yeah. I have a lisp. But yes, Jamba Juice smoothies. And I think he really loved that. He loves being in his dad's company. And you can tell because, sometimes they're too young to tell, but they do definitely notice the difference. But the entire day, even after his dad departed from us, he was just on a high, or cloud 9. My baby wasn't on a high, but you know what I'm saying. Okay. So that is the mommy moment for the week.
Well, how did he like the movie?
Oh, Pierre.
The Minion movie.
Pierre enjoyed the Minion movie a lot.
Was he, still, or was he like all over the place? Did
I think our family in general, we bond through movies, and so that wasn't his first experience at the movie theater. I do try to make sure that I go at a time that it's not frequented or after the movie's been out for a while. So we were in there by ourselves. But Pierre pretty much just sat through the chair, had his popcorn. He was a big kid.
Oh, I wish I had saw that.
So we have on our shirts for today. You've seen them before. Because I got 2 kids and 1 stream of income won't do. And then this is also the face of the podcast. Additionally, the Mother May I segment, I have a question for you. These are when questions are submitted to us from different platforms or via email. And Mother May I?
Yes, you may.
Hi, so this is my first time pregnant and I just found out last week. It wasn't planned at all and unexpected for us both. I've been talking to baby's father for a year, although he never fully committed. This entire week, he has been begging me to get an abortion, threatening to kill himself if I keep it, saying he will never date me, so child will grow up in a toxic environment, and a single mom, so abort because it's logical. His words, not mine. I keep talking to him, trying to convince him to accept reality. I'm giving him sympathy and time because I get it wasn't planned and shocking for us both, but I feel this reaction is so extreme. Did your baby fathers come around, or is it best to block out the toxic energy? Because to me, abort isn't even a question.
Did the camera catch all of my eye faces and everything?
Eye faces.
Just the faces I was making. Like, I've been talking to the baby's daddy for a year, and I found out I was pregnant last week, and it was unexpected. How is getting pregnant unexpected when you are not using protection? But anyway, I think that the last part of her question was remove herself from the toxicity and I think that would be the best. And I don't know if that would work for her, because it sounds like she's continuing to allow him to have, she's already engaged with him, and it sounds like she is not going to do that. But it's best for her to remove herself from the toxicity. If this man is saying stuff like he's going to kill himself or commit suicide just because you're having another kid, I mean, that's a red flag right there. So I would remove myself from the toxicity and get yourself strong enough where you have to depend solely on yourself. If he comes around later on, if you don't plan on having an abortion and you plan on raising, and that's why I heard her say that she plans on not having an abortion. Thank goodness, because abortion is not, what did I say people are using abortion as? Birth control. And so I'm thankful that she's not going to get an abortion. And remove yourself from the toxicity. Please get yourself strong enough where you can remove yourself from the toxicity. You don't believe that you'll need that individual at all, because I don't think that they would, add to your life at all. Anything positive that they would add to your life. They would just cause you a lot of chaos and probably a lot of disruption. So remove yourself.
I think that she had the present, I did not expect, I hadn't read throughout the whole message before until now. And so I thought that she had a present mind to not say, she said, will it change basically, or should I just remove myself from the toxicity? So she had present mind to be aware that it is toxic energy. Some females would be like, because he's saying stuff like, I want to kill myself, they would be using that as a reason to want to stay in a situation, thinking that you can save the young man. But I think that is a scare tactic that men sometimes do use. I don't think that they are intentionally going to act on it. Granted, there may be some situations where that is the case. But I do think she had the present mind to recognize it is toxic. My advice to you, as my mother has stated, is to just completely remove yourself from that situation altogether and just go into it knowing that you may not get the type of support that you need.
Right.
Maybe you do want to bring up to a state entity or a counselor just to make it aware that, suicide ideation, is something that he talked about, so that you're not accountable for any of that. That won't be something on your conscience if he does act. But other than that, there's not a lot there, sweetie.
Yeah. No, if they use that kind of language, that's desperate. And like you said, some people use that as a scare tactic. And so, don't fall for that to stay in it, please.
The topic for today, 1, 2, 3, let's breathe in and out. 1, 2,
What is
3.
it?
Let's talk about sex.
Why? This is a mother-daughter. This is supposed to be a mother-daughter duo podcast. So how are we helping anybody talking about? Because that's not.
Well, we are not sex. First and foremost, as a disclaimer, we are not any sexologists. We do not have any degrees in the area. But recently, we had an event where we did a soft launch. And one of the things that stood out to me from some of the people that were present or conversations they wish that they would have had with their mothers that they did not have. Now, none of them said sex.
Right, because I was going to say, I don't remember them talking about.
But I'm telling you, this is a conversation I wonder if you wish you had with your parents, and this is a conversation we didn't have. And so maybe this can help a young lady. And not just sex and intimacy. And it doesn't necessarily just mean the act of intercourse with another person, but understanding and loving yourself so that you can prevent certain things like what we just talked about in the Mother May I portion. So did you ever have any conversations, or do you recall having any conversations about love, what that looks like, sex and intimacy growing up?
No, my mom didn't have those conversations.
So what was
her thing, her sex talk was, if a man plays with your nipple.
Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting.
Well, yeah, that's what she said. She said when a man play with something like that, and this is, I'm 60, so this was when I was around maybe 16, 17. But she said something about when a man will play with your nipple, watch out. That's the only thing my mama said. So that was her sex talk. Bless her heart. We were sitting in the kitchen.
Did you interpret how old would you say you were at that time?
I just told you around 16, 17, I think.
And so did you kind of get an understanding of
I didn't get nothing. I just like
that would just has sat with you.
Well, yeah. And so,
and
I watched
marinate in that.
Yeah. And so growing, I mean, I guess
when a man
from that
plays
point
with your
on,
nipple,
I walk around like that. Cause that's all she gave me. So I'm like, I didn't know.
So what would you say were some tools back then that you used for education purposes?
Oh, I didn't have no tools, child. I didn't use nothing. No, didn't have any of that. I mean, we had sex education in school.
I was going to ask you about that next.
Yeah, we did. We had sex education in school. Yeah.
Do you recall anything?
No, I don't recall
that was
nothing.
Jarring, or?
I don't recall nothing that was jarring. Nothing stood out in that class. No.
Do you feel like you gained anything from that?
No, I don't feel like I gained any. I don't. I mean, it was 60-something years, so I can't really remember that. Yeah. Well, I'm not saying 60-something years. That would make me around 80. So I would say that was like 40-some years ago. I can't remember. 45. I cannot remember.
So I was going to ask you about sex education and whether you had that in your school.
We did have it in school, yeah.
Since you don't necessarily recall, I was going to ask you, do you feel like it's necessary since it's now not in schools at all? Do you feel we're missing out, society's missing out by not having sex education? But I don't think you can fairly say yes because you don't even remember.
Because I don't remember.
What do you think?
I mean, I think it still should be added in school, and I think parents need to do a better job at sitting down with their children and having an honest conversation.
Do you think like the birds and bees is an honest conversation? I don't even know what the birds and bees story is.
I mean, they use it as the birds and bees to make it. It should just be practical, but yeah, I think it should be practical.
I remember we did a segment with my brother, Bruce, and we talked very briefly about what your conversation was, which was don't choke the...
Well, don't... No!
What?
I didn't tell him don't... I was not talking about Danielle.
We already talked about it.
But it was not me telling him don't choke the chicken. I was telling him about when a girl performs oral sex on him.
I mentioned don't choke the chicken because that's what I recall you saying, and that was the only kind of education I recall you giving.
No, I used a 7-Up bottle to show him about how women...
What?
Ask him, he'll tell you. And he was like, Mom, don't do that no more.
Okay, so props.
Yeah, I had a problem.
What conversations do you think that we've had about it?
I don't think we had a conversation. Did we? Do you remember? Because my memory is bad. So did we? And what did I say?
Definitely not a single thing.
Oh, okay. You learned all on your own?
You shipped me away to Job Corps at 16
You better
years
quit
old.
saying I shipped you away.
What do you call it?
You had to go away to Job Corps because you were flunking out of school.
Okay, you shipped me away to Job Corps. And even then, you did not teach me anything about sex.
No, I didn't.
So I was on the campus. God knows
Just
what.
giving it away.
No, that didn't happen. I'm teasing you. But, hey, you didn't prep me.
Well, I wasn't prepped either. So when I got to college, me and my best friend Cynthia, we was trying to give it away.
Oh, my Lord. For you to say you weren't prepared for this conversation. You sure are.
Well, yeah, we was down there in Western Illinois University in the summer of 1979.
Oh, my Lord. So, for all the people that were around at that time. That's funny. Well, I'm a little shocked. I wasn't. I said it was going to be, what is it? Not PG. PG is...
It's PG.
Not explicit. Adult content. We didn't want to go that far. Well, so do you think, like we talked about on another episode, daddy issues? Do you think, and you didn't recall that you had any daddy issues, but you said because a lack of education, you kind of were out there giving it away. Do you think had you had better education around or surrounding sex, that maybe your journey would have been different?
Possible. Yeah.
Now, let's just do a scenario. Say I am 12 years old, because now kids are a lot earlier when they're introduced to these conversations, unfortunately. Even earlier than 12, and no judgment is being passed, but now you have kids that are even younger who now identify very differently from how they came out of the womb. And I don't know if that is because a large influence is, it's just kids are so immersed in the culture with social media and television, and you have cartoons that are very, I wouldn't even say covert, they're overtly showing sexualized. So I don't know what the question I was asking, but
I would think.
A scenario.
Well, I was going to say too, though, given what you just have said, you're never too young. I mean, a child is never too young for you to. There are some mistakes I think that we made where we are not actually, and I guess we really didn't know the power of our sexuality or these
Society's influence.
The hormones. I don't know. But you can never be, based on my experience now with people, and I will say this might swing real to the left, but with molestation, I think that you can never be a child or an individual is never too young to talk to them about sex, to talk to them about their body parts, to talk to them about desires and cravings. You can never be too old or too young to sit down with a young girl or a young boy and tell them about these feelings that they're going to have and how they need to deal with those feelings. And I think I don't know why sex is such a taboo topic, but it is. It's uncomfortable for people to talk about it. And
I think it's the fear, especially on the parents' behalf, the fear that if I talk to my kids, I'm giving them permission, one, or two, I'm exposing them to things too early.
It is, but you can never, because they need to know if somebody that haven't had to talk with them, or somebody that has not had a conversation with an adult or their parent, but some of them are being sexually molested at home. this is a reality in 2022. And so then they get around your child that who's innocent, doesn't know anything, and start, performing, experimenting and doing several things, and then your child gets aroused by it. Your child begins to so then that child goes out and have these these desires, and it just perpetuates the things that go on in our home that we don't talk about, that you find out 20 and 30 years later.
I do have to say, and I know that this can get backlash, but a lot of the people that I have spoken to who identify very differently, if you talk to them about their story or their history, a lot of it has been, I was molested.
They were a lot.
Or violated at a very young age.
Yeah. I think,
and mind you, I live in Washington State, very liberal, very we have very different identities, and so it's not. And I have conversations with a lot of different people, so it's not just that I'm saying these things; these are actual conversations. And I told you I went to Evergreen State College. Very liberal. I never liberal, very liberal. Right. I've never had been exposed prior to attending Evergreen to so many different additions to the LBGQ. So pansexual, asexual. There's so many different variations, which I respect all, but the conversations that I have had has been because I was violated, and now I just want to be so far removed from that, or this is who I feel I am, but I was also violated at a very young age. But when you talked about you can never be too young to have these experiences, the conversations, I even think about Pierre at 2 years old, if I'm being completely transparent. He's at an age where he's exploring parts of his body. He notices there is a part to him that is very different. And even you are like, Danielle, he's in there. And I think you should stop him. But I'm more so like, well, let's teach him what this body part is. Even at 2 years old, this is my private.
And I think that's a fear from me growing up in the time period that I grew up in, as opposed to what you're doing now. So, and I think, and I'm listening to you. So even though you might not believe me or think that I am listening to you. So
the quicker and earlier that I feel we can correct or tell him about his body part, the easier it will be when he gets older, start understanding it a little bit more. But he's always in the shower or the bath by himself, and we walk past the door sometimes and he's exploring. So as of late, I've been teaching him, he's sleeping right now, baby. Don't bother him. Don't wake him up. That's what I could come up with. But I also don't think that it's very educational to give your kids these weird names for their body parts and stuff. I think that kids can become detached if you don't tell them what the body part is. I don't know. We have a lot of... I don't
know. You're right. I mean, listen, that is one of
hoo-ha, I've heard, as something used for young girls.
Oh, or pocketbook.
Pocketbook.
For the young girls, yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very taboo subject, period, in our society, is sex. And when do you talk about it to your child? And my belief is, not too, of course, as far as talking about sex, but maybe a little bit around to let somebody know you don't let anybody play with you, touch you inappropriately, and if they do, say something, make them comfortable, and let them know that some things are just not right, so that they know, hey, that's not right, don't touch me there, don't do this, don't do that. And I think we need to do that and we're not. And sex is the attraction to it, or the what is it? I can't think of it right now.
It's a cultural norm. It's a societal norm. It can become a deep sickness. It can become something that you can really fall victim to if you're not properly educated. But back to another thing that you just said, you're not too early. It's just the kind of conversations that you have about sex. So even at 2 years old, you're not going to say this is how you have sex, but you're going to talk about body parts. You're going to talk about, violating, becoming victimized, that kind of conversation. And what does that look like for a 2-year-old?
Yeah.
And then the conversation just continues to grow, but not that you ever just don't have the conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's always great and the best tactic to be open, have open communication across all boards.
Yeah.
So I'm 12 years old. I'm coming to you. I'm, just had my cycle for the first time. Things are developing.
Is this a scenario?
Yeah. Things are developing. Mom, this boy, I think he really likes me. And he said that if I give him a kiss, then we can be boyfriend and girlfriend. What would your first thing be?
I would say,
who is this young boy? I'm going to go up to that school and I'm going to knock his head off.
Knowing me,
that's what you would say.
I would have said, no, I would have been just, yeah. So I think the sensible thing would have been to do is just to, see, as a single mom, I didn't have anybody to bounce this off of. So I know I've made mistakes along the way. And some single parents will find that, there's a difference between being in a household of two, right? A husband and a wife, where you can bounce something off of them and say, what should I say? But I didn't have that. So my mind is, bringing you up was just to shut it down and just, not talk about it. I'm not saying I did that right. I did not do that right. I did not conversate with my kids. It was this and that's it. This way or no way. This is what you would do. And I think you need to have conversation. As we evolve as a country, as a society of people, you have to learn how to communicate and talk. So I would have shut it down immediately, but I think the right thing would have been to say, well, no, I don't think it's necessarily that do you like the young man? She probably would have said yes. I said, well, if you like him and he likes you, is it really necessary for you to have to kiss him? Because
he says yes, because that's how you show each other that you like each other.
I think respecting somebody, being nice to them, being kind to them, that's a way where you can show that you like somebody. Listen, kissing kind of opens the door. Let's have a conversation. Kissing kind of opens the door to all of these other feelings that you will have that you've never experienced before, but then it could lead into something else, like our hormones, being attracted to someone physically, because kissing can lead to something else. Then they might want to touch your private areas, and those are the kind of things that you have to be careful of when you begin. Then they'll start asking me questions and, well, what do you mean?
Yeah, because I already was like, oh, they want to touch my private area. I would have been.
Yeah, they want to touch
curious about that too.
Pocketbook. They want to put some change in your pocketbook.
Oh my Lord! So what does that mean? Like your mom told you about, if you let them touch your nipples, I would have just been like this the whole time.
Yeah, you've been walking around like that.
Well, in closing, things like. Planned Parenthood, we don't know if those organizations will be around much longer or what the outcome may be because of the state and the climate that we're in. But do you value or think there's value in like having those entities remain open for young girls who don't necessarily have an outlet, who need resources like the birth control, the Plan B, the condoms? And do you think it's okay for you to start giving the kids those things pretty early?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to give. I think Planned Parenthood is important. As you said, young man or young woman don't have, and it's mostly probably the young women that utilize Planned Parenthood the most. We put the responsibility of Planned Parenthood on the young women. So if a young woman does not grew up in a home where there was no stability, and had, didn't have a mom, or had a mom but just didn't have
The education.
I think Planned Parenthood is beneficial to our communities. And I think we need to have sex education back in the schools. Yeah.
I'm only fearful of that because I think both work when the parent is teaching as well as the school.
But I think the great responsibility for sex education is on the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was a segment. Let's talking about sex. Of course, make sure that you're going to the professionals at the end of the day to get the resources, the education, and the information that you need. But thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Mother-Daughter Duo Podcast.